Obviously, he was the uber star, and I was just up and coming. So, yeah, it's gonna be a show. But he used that to just threw me off. Like, it was terrible, man. Like, how do you call a witness to testify against your comrade? But I'm facing 25 years, and you looking at probation. Yeah, those are the things that, you understand, are unacceptable. You don't have to hold my hand. You don't have to do nothing, but don't try to hurt me.
So this is the man who lost everything because of Diddy and J.Lo. He was just a guy trying to build a name in the music business. But one night outside a Manhattan nightclub changed all that. And when the gunshots rang out, it wasn't J.Lo or Diddy who paid the price.
I was defending him, and he turned around and called witnesses to testify against me, and he contributed. He pretty much sent me to prison.
While J.Lo walked away untouched and Diddy rebranded himself into a billionaire mogul, this man faced lawsuits, medical bills, and career ruin.
Let us not lose sight of what the cold hard facts are. This was not someone who I vacationed with and who he and I enjoyed this great intimate relationship of brotherhood. This is someone who destroyed my life.
It's been decades since that night, but the scars, physical and emotional, still follow him. This is the story of the man who became collateral damage in the Diddy and J.Lo empire. Before everything fell apart, Shyne was supposed to be the future of Bad Boy. Young, talented, and straight out of Brooklyn, he had the voice and energy that reminded people of Biggie. That wasn't a coincidence. Diddy signed him at just 19 years old, less than 2 years after Biggie's death. Bad Boy needed a new face, someone raw, street-connected, and believable. Shyne fit the mold. He got a $500,000 advance and started recording his debut album immediately. People behind the scenes said Diddy was shaping him into the next flagship artist. It wasn't subtle. In interviews, Shyne was already being positioned as the spiritual successor to Biggie. The voice, the tone, the style. It was intentional. Critics noticed, fans noticed, and the industry buzz started to build. Shyne wasn't just writing hype. He could rap. There was substance behind the sound. Songs like Bad Boys and That's Gangsta proved he had a real presence. He didn't rely on radio-friendly gimmicks. He spoke from lived experience. By the late 90s, his self-titled debut album was shaping up to be one of the most anticipated street rap records of the year. Behind the scenes, though, things were moving fast. Diddy had him in photo shoots, magazine features, and club appearances. Shyne was still a teenager, being thrown into a lifestyle he didn't fully control. That included staying close to Diddy, especially in public. The more successful Diddy got, the more valuable it became to be seen with him. That night at Club New York was no different. On December 27, 1999, Diddy arrived at the club with Jennifer Lopez on his arm and Shyne by his side. It was a high-profile night out. Bottles, VIP treatment, cameras. But what started as a celebration turned into a nightmare. A fight broke out near their table. Words were exchanged. Then shots were fired. 3 people were hit. Panic swept the club. Shyne pulled out a gun and fired. Witnesses said it looked like self-defense, but once police got involved, none of that mattered. He was arrested on the spot, along with Diddy and J.Lo. That one moment erased everything he'd built in the span of a year. Next came the media storm. The narrative shifted quickly. J.Lo distanced herself. Diddy's lawyers started strategizing. And Shyne? He was already being prepped to take the fall. Once the arrests were made, it didn't take long for the power dynamics to show. Diddy hired a legal dream team, including Johnny Cochran, the same attorney who helped O.J. Simpson beat his case. Shyne didn't get that luxury. Despite being just 21 and facing decades in prison, he was left to rely on a public defender until late in the process, when he finally secured his own representation. But by then, the damage was already setting in. Diddy and J.Lo were already working the PR circuit. Shyne was already labeled a thug. From the beginning, the strategy was clear. Separate Diddy and J.Lo from Shyne entirely. When the trial began in early 2001, prosecutors accused Diddy of trying to cover up the crime. Witnesses said they saw him grab a gun, flee the scene, and even try to bribe his driver to take the blame. That driver would later testify against him in court. But Diddy's team poked holes in every witness statement, made every inconsistency consistency look like doubt and leaned into the chaos of the club that night. Shyne's situation was different. He admitted to firing his weapon, but maintained it was in self-defense. According to multiple witness accounts, the situation escalated after someone threw money in Diddy's face and things got tense. Shyne fired into the air, trying to protect himself and others, but the jury didn't see it that way. Even though J.Lo was never charged and Diddy was acquitted of all serious charges, Shyne was found guilty on 2 counts of assault, gun possession, and reckless endangerment. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. That's when the silence started. Diddy moved on. J.Lo moved on. Bad Boy Records kept operating. And the man who had once been labeled the next Biggie was locked away, virtually erased. What hurt most wasn't just the sentence, it was the betrayal. Shyne later revealed that Diddy not only refused to testify in his defense, but also made it clear that they were no longer connected.
Like, how do you call a witness to testify against your comrade?
There was no phone call, no apology, no public support. Diddy beat the charges and started cleaning up his image, dropping Puff Daddy and rebranding himself as P. Diddy. He appeared on TRL, joked about the trial in interviews, and pushed a new line of clothing. Shyne, meanwhile, was transferred to Clinton Correctional Facility, where he'd spend years surrounded by and lifers, while his debut album dropped without him. That album, Shyne, ended up going gold. Critics praised the storytelling, the voice, the rawness, but the artist behind it couldn't do interviews, couldn't perform, and couldn't tour. He was locked up while Diddy profited off the brand they built together. To this day, many believe Diddy made a calculated choice. Let Shyne take the hit, distance himself quickly, and protect the empire at all costs. And it worked. Diddy walked away with a clean record and a billion-dollar future. Shyne walked into a prison cell, still processing how fast loyalty can be weaponized. Shyne had options. He could have flipped. He could have cut a deal. He could have taken Diddy down. The prosecutors were hoping he would. After all, Shyne was young, facing 10 years, and had every reason to be bitter. But he didn't talk. He kept Diddy's name out of it, right up to sentencing. In the streets, that kind of silence earns respect. But inside a prison cell, that respect doesn't feed you. Shyne had to watch the industry move on without him. He didn't get visits from Diddy, no calls from Bad Boy. J.Lo cut ties immediately. She was back in Hollywood making rom-coms while Shyne adjusted to prison routines and lockdowns.
Took the fall for Shyne Combs.
Taking the fall means not snitching, not getting your friends in trouble. Even today, I wouldn't want to do anything to get anyone in trouble.
People forget that Shyne was only 21, at an age when most artists are just finding their sound. He was already dealing with betrayal, a public trial, and the weight of a justice system that never gave him a real shot. But instead of falling apart, he stayed solid, and he paid the price. From 2001 to 2009, Shyne served nearly a decade in prison, and it was an easy time. He wasn't a protected celebrity inmate. He was just another number, surrounded by men doing life for robberies and some respected him for not snitching. Others didn't care. The guards weren't impressed by gold records. And the rap game that once embraced him quickly forgot. Outside, Diddy's empire was growing. He was dropping hit albums, launching Ciroc, making cameos in movies, and building the Mogul brand. There was no trace of the trial in his marketing. No mention of the guy who took the hit so he could walk free. That part of the story was buried. But in prison, Shyne was evolving. He spent hours reading, studying law, and reconnecting with his Jewish roots. He didn't spend his time dwelling on what Diddy did or didn't do. He focused on survival and growth. The man who came out in 2009 wasn't the same one who went in. He still didn't throw Diddy under the bus, but the loyalty was dead. Publicly, he started telling the truth about what really happened behind the scenes. He didn't make threats, he didn't demand apologies, he just laid out the fact. When Shyne finally stepped out of prison in 2009, there was no major press rollout, no label deal waiting, no Bad Boy reunion. Instead, ICE was waiting. Because Shyne was born in Belize and never finalized his U.S. citizenship, the government treated him like a criminal alien. Before he could breathe free air, they locked him back up and processed him for deportation. He fought the ruling, but the system didn't care about who he was or what he'd survive. Within weeks, he was sent back to Belize, stripped of his right to ever live in the U.S. again. Just like that, the city he represented, the country where his career was built, and the industry he sacrificed everything for turned its back.
Shyne Jamal Barrow is back in Belize. police. He arrived at 2:40 this afternoon at the Philip Golson International Airport, where he was met by family, fans, and the media.
Back in Belize, he was seen as a national figure. The government welcomed him. His story became a lesson in endurance. But in the U.S., the hip-hop world moved on. Artists who once called him real now kept their distance. Diddy never reached out. There was no press conference, no public acknowledgement, no gesture of thanks. Even when Shyne tried to restart his career, he hit roadblock. He dropped new music from Belize, but it was hard to compete without touring, radio appearances, or studio collaborations in the state. Labels didn't want to invest in a rapper who couldn't enter the U.S. His name had weight, but the logistics made him invisible. By 2010, Shyne had every reason to disappear. He was banned from the U.S., blackballed by the industry, and forgotten by the same people who once called him family. But instead of spiraling, he pivoted. Back in Belize, he began shaping a new identity, one that had nothing to do with rap, fame, or Diddy. He started building something that couldn't be taken away. Shyne changed his name to Moses Michael Levi Barrow and became more involved with the Belizean government. His father, Dean Barrow, was the country's prime minister at the time, but Shyne didn't ride his father's coattails. He built his own lane. He connected with the youth, studied public policy, and gradually shifted from former rapper to public servant. The change wasn't just cosmetic. He dressed differently, spoke differently. His interviews weren't about album releases or record deals. They were about prison reform, economic opportunity, and national unity. The man who once held it down in Clinton Correctional was now giving speeches in Parliament and walking through neighborhoods discussing real-world issues. In 2020, Shyne officially ran for office as a member of the Belize House of Representatives and won.
A few things I said: integrity, character, honesty, compassion, generosity. These are secrets to success.
For Shyne, politics wasn't a publicity stunt. It was personal. He knew what it meant to come from nothing, to be used, to be cast aside. That gave him a level of credibility that no campaign consultant could manufacture. He spoke about second chances because he lived through the need for one. He pushed for criminal justice reform because he had experienced the system's failures firsthand. The Belizean people responded. Despite his past, or maybe because of it, they embraced his honesty. He didn't hide his record. He owned it. And in a world full of polished politicians, Shyne's story stood out as raw, unfiltered, and real. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., his name occasionally resurfaced, but always in past tense. Documentaries and articles would mention the Club New York shooting, sometimes incorrectly framing him as the aggressor, or just another rapper who threw his life away. Few ever told the full story. Fewer still mentioned how he'd rebuilt that life from exile. Diddy never acknowledged Shyne's political rise. No congratulations. No public show of support. The man who once said he was Shyne to take over Bad Boy acted as if the entire chapter never happened. But Shyne didn't need validation anymore. He'd found purpose without the industry. Instead of chasing charts, he was drafting legislation. Instead of beefs, he was negotiating policy. His transformation was so complete that many younger Belizeans knew him more as a statesman than a rapper. And for Shyne, that was the point. Music was the beginning. Politics was the legacy. He had been locked up, exiled, erased, and betrayed. But somehow, he turned it all into something greater. The same system that tried to silence him was now the one he was helping to reform from the inside. For years, Diddy acted like Shyne was a footnote, like the Bad Boy era jumped straight from Biggie's legacy to chart-topping singles and Ciroc deals. In interviews, retrospectives, and anniversary specials, Shyne's name rarely came up, and when it did, it was brushed off with vague nods or redirected answers. But the truth is, you can't tell Diddy's story without Shyne, and you can't explain Bad Boy's survival after Biggie without acknowledging the man who bled for it. From 1997 to 1999, the label was scrambling. Biggie was gone. Mace had one foot out the door. Faith Evans and 112 were reliable, but they weren't carrying the street. Diddy needed someone gritty, someone who made the label feel dangerous again. That was Shyne. The irony is that the Club New York shooting actually kept Bad Boy in headlines. It gave the label edge, controversy, and mystique. Shyne's trial gave them national attention. And while Diddy rebranded, dropped the Puff Daddy name, and sold the clean-cut mogul image, it was only possible because he wasn't the one behind bars. Shyne was. And the industry's silence helped Diddy rewrite the past. But Shyne never let the truth die. In interviews after his release, he never attacked Diddy with wild accusations. He just told it plainly. Diddy did what was best for Diddy. He saved himself, protected his brand, distanced himself when it counted, and Shyne paid for it.
I'm facing 25 years, and you looking at probation? Yeah, those are the things that, you understand, are unacceptable. You don't have to hold my hand. You don't have to do nothing, but don't try to hurt me.
What made it worse was how the industry followed suit. Rappers who once shouted Shyne out in songs stopped saying his name. Labels refused to touch his post-prison music, and every documentary about the 2000s rap scene skipped over what happened, as if the kid who went down for one of hip-hop's most famous scandals just vanished. But erasure only works when the person being erased stays quiet. And Shyne didn't. He kept speaking. He showed up on platforms. He reminded people of the facts. And more importantly, he never stopped evolving. While Diddy's name keeps getting tied to lawsuits and federal investigations, Shyne's name keeps rising, attached to policy, leadership, and redemption. That contrast alone exposes the gap between the two. Diddy has power, but Shyne has story. And no matter how much press Diddy controls or how many circles protect him, he can't rewrite what happened that night. He can't delete the trial. He can't change the fact that someone took the fall so he could keep posing in front of cameras. And no matter how many times he skips Shyne's name in interviews, the record still shows who really paid the price. The music may have moved on, the headlines may have faded, but the scars and the truth never left. Shyne's presence in hip-hop history is permanent, whether Diddy says it or not. For years, Shyne was the name they all avoided. The labels, the radio hosts, the artists who once praised him. His story was too raw, too tied to a scandal that most of the industry had chosen to forget. But something started shifting around 2021. It wasn't just that Shyne had cleaned up his image, it was that the image he built in Belize had more weight than the one they tried to bury. Now he wasn't just a rapper with a tragic story. He was a sitting member of parliament, a national leader, and a walking example of what accountability and transformation actually looked like. And suddenly, the same music world that left him behind started knocking again. It began subtly. Podcasts name-dropping him with respect. Journalists revisiting the Club New York, shooting with more honesty. Younger artists calling him a legend. People started questioning why Shyne had been cut out of so many narratives, and the answers always pointed back to the same place: protecting Diddy. When Bad Boy Records had its 20th anniversary tour, Shyne was absent, but that silence spoke volumes. And fans noticed. Why was Mace there? Why was French Montana on stage? Why wasn't the guy who took the fall even mentioned? Then came the real pivot, Revolt Summit 2022. The same Diddy-funded platform that once ignored Shyne's legacy suddenly reached out. And instead of accepting quietly, Shyne flipped the narrative. He didn't just show up, he showed up in a suit as the Honorable Moses Barrow, leader of the opposition in Belize. Not a rapper, a statesman. Suddenly, everyone wanted in. Artists wanted interviews. Documentaries came calling. The same people who once erased him started pitching deals, trying to align with his redemption arc. But Shyne didn't bite on all of it. He was selective. He knew the game now, and he wasn't going to be used again. The real moment came when he returned to the U.S. in 2023 after being granted a special diplomatic visa. For the first time since his deportation, Shyne walked through American soil, not as an artist begging for entry, but as a foreign official. That trip wasn't about music. It was about business, politics, and proving that no amount of industry betrayal could erase destiny. He didn't run to reunite with Diddy. He didn't stage a comeback concert. He walked into meetings with lawmakers and community leaders, and the message was clear: you turned your back on me, but I turned that pain into power. The industry didn't come crawling back because they believed in Shyne's story. They came back because they couldn't afford to ignore it anymore. And when the room flipped, Shyne was already seated at a bigger table. Shyne gave up everything in a split second. That's the truth. When the shots rang out at Club New York, he didn't run. He didn't point fingers. He pulled the trigger to protect the people he came with. And then he stood alone in court, took the time, and never once used another man's name to shave his sentence. That's what loyalty looked like. But that loyalty came with a cost. He lost a decade of his life, missed the peak of his music career, got deported from the only country he ever knew. And the people he protected, the ones who smiled for cameras and thanked God at award shows, moved on without him. Shyne had to rebuild from zero, not just as an artist, but as a man. While Diddy rebranded himself as a media mogul and J.Lo went on to dominate music, film, and TV, Shyne had to process what it meant to be loyal in a world that rewards betrayal. And yet, he still doesn't regret it. That's the part the industry can't understand. Loyalty to Shyne wasn't about career leverage or reputation. It was about principles. He wasn't trying to be better. He was just doing what he thought a real man was supposed to do. And even when it broke him, he didn't change. Now, years later, that same loyalty has reshaped his legacy. Not in gold records, but in something more permanent: respect. From the streets to the Belizean parliament, people recognize Shyne for what he endured, not just what he accomplished. He's not remembered as the rapper who shot up a club. He's remembered as the man who never folded, even when everyone else did. Diddy still refuses to speak his name with any depth, still avoids questions, still paints the story like it was all just a dark chapter. But that silence only makes Shyne louder, because he never needed Diddy's apology to find closure. He built that on his own. The industry tried to erase him. Deportation tried to isolate him, but Shyne kept moving. And today, his story isn't just about hip-hop. It's about survival, transformation, and the hard cost of integrity. Most people would have broken. Shyne didn't. And when his story finally gets told the right way, not filtered through headlines or record labels, it's clear who came out of that club shooting with their soul intact. It wasn't the mogul. It wasn't the superstar. It was the man they left behind. And that's the real legacy. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.